Right, a very good day to all students in today's session where we will focus on parody and pastiche. Please note that all PowerPoint presentations must be studied in conjunction with your study guide and tutorial letter. So, the aims and outcomes for this module, which has also been posted on my modules, is that you need to be able to develop your theoretical knowledge of a wide range of drama and theatre theories. And you must be able to apply this theoretical knowledge to a diverse range of plays and or performances. So the outcome of this module is that you should be able to identify and discuss the most important premises that underlie the post-structuralist drama, post-colonial drama, and also theatre theory. You should be able to conduct a close reading of a dramatic text of your choice and performances from a post-structuralist and post-colonial perspective. You must be able to identify and then critically discuss the important premises that underlie feminist drama and theatre theory. Last but most importantly, it is very important that you are able to conduct a close reading of a dramatic text of your choice and performances from a feminist perspective, and also demonstrate how gender awareness as well as cultural awareness and sensitivity can build better relationships in our contemporary society. So what we are going to be focusing on today's session is that we're going to be looking at post-structuralist theatre, post-structuralism, and postmodernism. Please remember to watch the previous YouTube videos that I have posted, where I unpack post-structuralist theatre and post-structuralism, as well as postmodernism in detail. Please remember that you must be able to view those YouTube videos before you watch this particular lesson. The other purpose of today's session is that we're going to contextualize parody and pastiche, which is applicable to a dramatic text. Last but most importantly, we are going to unpack how concepts of parody and pastiche are applicable in analyzing, or as we like to say, conduct a close reading of a dramatic text and or a narrative text of your choice. So this is just a repeat of what I previously mentioned, that you need to watch the video titles, the narrative discourse, narrative theory, narrative text, story, and narration, where I unpack modernism, postmodernism, structuralism, and post-structuralism, as well as modernity. Please remember that you must familiarize yourself with these key terms before proceeding to the next slide. So at the end of today's lesson, you should be able to understand the terms parody and pastiche, and also understand why dramatic texts use parody and pastiche. Or in simple terms, why do playwrights use parody and pastiche in their plays? So what is parody? So when we look at this from a historical perspective, this gained a lot of popularity during the Renaissance, which was a theatrical form of entertainment. And during the 18th and 19th century, parody was permeated through the form of burlesque and vaudeville, which is a type of performance where it is still applicable in today's contemporary society, performed in places that are known for burlesque and vaudeville performances. So when we contextualize this in theory of literature, this is a postmodern phenomenon in drama, and it is a theoretical technique that we use to analyze a play, or as one would like to say, conduct a close reading of a play. Parody is also a tool, quote unquote, a tool that is used by playwrights to basically satirize and critique various aspects of society, but in the form of a dramatic text, also depicted on stage, or as we like to say, in a theatrical setting. It is also an imitation or a fictional reference within the play that has been marked by the play's genre and style. So one can argue that parody is a tool that a playwright uses to almost criticize various aspects of our society, the society that we live in a theatrical domain or a theatrical setting. And one can also say that playwrights use parody as a way of trying to imitate, or let us say, an imitation of a fictional reference within a play. And this play is underpinned by its own genre and style. So a parody is pretty much from a playwright's point of view, it is reflexive and not reflective. And it is also meta-fictional. So the aim of parody is to imitate the style or characters of either the author or the work. And as such, the playwright is able to ridicule and create a comic effect. So one can also argue the playwright ridicules and creates a comic effect, or you can also say that the play in its entirety ridicules and creates a comic effect by imitating a certain theatrical style or characteristics of an author's work. So if, for example, you are a playwright and you want to devise a play that is a parody of Twilight, what you as a playwright are doing is that you are basically imitating the original author's work. And as such, you are in essence really almost ridiculing and creating a comic effect by imitating the original author's work and also the style of the original author's work. So both parody and pastiche, which I will get into shortly, are intertextual. So in other words, this is understood through the meaning of another text. So what is the function of parody? Parody basically deconstructs a primary text, which I have mentioned earlier by using the example of Twilight, and it reduces it by deconstructing the original text. You are basically reducing it to something that is quite laughable. So think of the best way to understand this. Think of the movies that you have watched that basically ridicule or create comic relief based on original forms, such as the scary movies, Austin Powers, and the list just goes on and on. So when playwrights use parody, they do it because they want to deconstruct a primary text and reduce it to something that is quite humorous for the spectator, or as one can also say, the audience. So in light of this, I'd like you to think of a text or play where a playwright has used parody as a way to criticize various aspects of society. So if we look at a very, very good example, Urinetown by written by Mark Holman and Greg Curtis, that is a very good example of parody. If you want to get more insight into what the play is about and how the play itself exemplifies parody, you can look it up in your spare time. So now that you have this play in your mind, please remember to make notes on the types of parody that are applicable in the play of your choice, which may be handy when completing your assignment. So just a general hint based on the second point. When you're asked to argue how the types of parody and or pastiche are applicable to a play of your choice, remember to place focus on certain characters and also the play in its entirety. So you need to extensively argue how is parody and pastiche applicable to certain characters in the play and also the play as a whole. Another tip that I would also like to add here is when you are arguing how these terms are applicable to the play of your choice, remember to provide textual evidence or paraphrase a scene from the play that showcases the playwright's use of parody and or pastiche. Last but most importantly, please remember to consult section 14.1.1, where various aspects of parody are unpacked. So when we look at examples of parody in literature, and I want to place particular focus on a dramatic text, let us use King Lear as an example. So please just remember that for the purpose of this particular presentation, you will see that I have numbered the lines in this example for the purpose of analyzing the excerpt. So if we look at the excerpt from King Lear, which is a line by the Fool, he says, why for taking one's part, that out of favor, nay, and thou canst not smile as the one says. Thou catch cold shortly. There take my coxcomb, why this fellow had banished 2 daughters, and did the third a blessing against his will. If thou follow him, thou must needs wear my coxcomb. How now, nuncle, would I had 2 coxcombs and 2 daughters? So, if we were to analyze how this particular excerpt exemplifies parody, you will see that the Fool is in fact a parody of the king, and that this textual evidence indicates how the Fool is introduced in this dramatic text. Thirdly, if you go to line 3, the Fool is introduced, or he introduces his coxcomb, which is an imitation and also ridicules King Lear's crown. And he further explains in line 3 how this coxcomb, his coxcomb, which is a mockery of King Lear's crown, led to the banishment of his 2 sons. Fourthly, and also most importantly, the excerpt in its entirety is a parody of the king. So this is a very good example of parody in literature, where I signpost a particular character from the play that exemplifies the playwright, in this case, Shakespeare's use of parody. So, pastiche. Now, when we look at pastiche from a historical point of view, this originated from the Latin word pasta, which means to paste. And when we contextualize this in theory of literature, this is a postmodern phenomenon in drama, and it is also a theoretical term we use to analyze a play or conduct a close reading of a play of your choice. Pastiche is marked basically by elements that have been borrowed from another text. And one of the reasons why pastiche, or how pastiche is different from parody, is because imitation in a play is used as a form of flattery with elements of plagiarism. Therefore, the aim of parody is to ridicule, while the aim of pastiche is to basically create a sense of flattery and also plagiarism. So when we put it in table form as a way to understand parody versus pastiche, in terms of parody, this manipulates the original text. Whereas in pastiche, it is an imitation of the text, which is a secondary text. So the primary text is the original text, whereas when you create a pastiche, by imitating the primary text, it becomes a secondary text. Parody, on the other hand, is it indicts the primary text, whereas pastiche, it uses motives or utilizes motives from various texts for its own purpose. Parody places emphasis on the differences between the text as a parody and the original text, whereas pastiche, it places emphasis on the similarities between the text as a parody and the primary text, or as one can say, the original text, with very little due acknowledgement. So that is the difference between parody and pastiche, which I have simplified in table form. But please remember to consult your study guide, which provides detailed information on parody and pastiche. So if we look at an example of pastiche in theory of literature, we're going to look at The Traveller, which is a poetic text by Dave McClure. And this particular text basically imitates Edgar Allan Poe's prolific poetic text, The Raven. And McClure does this in a very comical way by imitating Edgar Allan Poe's arrangement of words in a stanza, and he applies the same rhyme scheme that Poe uses, and that the tone of the Raven is rather serious, while the overall tone of McClure's text is very, very humorous. And he devises this text by basically imitating aspects of Edgar Allan Poe's poem, but he does so with very little due acknowledgement. So when you go through, please remember to just go through these poetic texts in your own time, where you are able to signpost how The Traveller, written by Dave McClure, is basically an imitation of The Raven. Last but most importantly, thank you so much for attending or listening in today's lesson. Should you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to drop me an email. Bye for now.